They say a woman's intuition is strong, but I was the woman, and I ignored mine. I didn't fall out of love overnight. It happened slowly, like cold creeping in under a locked door. I stopped waiting for him to ask how my day was. Stopped hoping he'd notice my silence during dinner. I started confiding in someone else, not a stranger, but someone too familiar, his best friend. It started with emotional comfort, late night texts. "How are you really feeling?" He asked the questions my husband hadn't in years. I told myself it was innocent, that is, until the hotel room key found its way into my purse. But I wasn't ready for the consequences. So I asked for a divorce, calmly, no yelling, just papers and distance. He didn't argue, didn't cry. He simply nodded, and said he'd see me in court. That day came. I walked into the lawyer's office with confidence. Until he walked in, my husband, his face unreadable, but in his hand, a black leather folder. He slid it across the table. His lawyer opened it. My lawyer peeked over his shoulder, and then it happened. A silence that sucked the air out of the room. Screenshots, printouts, recordings. A GPS tracker history that I didn't even know existed. Photos of me and the man I thought I had hidden so well, my lawyer. Shook, hands trembling. He couldn't speak. My breath caught. This wasn't revenge. It was revelation. He didn't say a word, just leaned forward and whispered, "I stopped loving you the day you started sharing your soul with someone else." That day I realized something. Cheating wasn't just what I did. It was who I had become. I didn't sleep with him at first. That's what I told myself, over and over. So it wasn't cheating, right? We were just talking, but the kind of talking where you lower your voice, where you check if your husband is in the other room before you reply, where the silence after a message feels louder than your own guilt. That's how it began. It wasn't his body I reached for. It was his attention, his curiosity, his questions. "Are you okay? Does he even know what he has? You deserve more." Little messages, but they felt like bandages on wounds I hadn't admitted were bleeding. And the worst part, I answered honestly, openly, raw. Not once did my husband ask me those things anymore. He used to, before life got heavy, before work became his second marriage, before my voice stopped echoing in his world. So I let someone else listen. That first time I typed, "I wish he noticed me the way you do." I knew. It was over. The marriage, still intact on paper, but my loyalty, already gasping for breath. No one warns you that cheating doesn't start with a bedroom. It starts in the mind, in the heart, in the soul. I started dressing nicer, but not for my husband. I started wearing the perfume he once complimented because he remembered. We hadn't even touched yet. And I had already crossed more lines than I could count. Every secret text felt like a kiss. Every deleted message a moan. And when he finally touched my hand for the first time, I didn't feel fire. I felt shame, not because of what we did, but because I realized I hadn't missed my husband's touch in months. This man knew things my husband didn't, like how I cry when I feel cornered, or how silence makes me panic, or that I hate lilies because they remind me of funerals. My husband used to know that. Used to. People think sex is the biggest betrayal. No, it's when your heart starts whispering secrets into someone else's ear. When your joy and your grief belong to someone outside your home. I remember the moment it hit me. I was lying next to my husband. He was asleep, back turned, and I was texting the other man, telling him how empty I felt. I looked over, watched the man I married breathing deeply, peacefully, and I realized I was the stranger in the bed. My phone vibrated. A message lit the screen. "If you were mine, I'd never stop choosing you." I smiled and cried, because I wanted that message to come from the man I had vowed forever to, but it never did. That's when I stopped lying to myself. I had already left the marriage, not with bags, but with emotions. I started hiding things, started locking my phone, started snapping at him for asking basic questions. Why? because the guilt turned me cruel. I hated myself, so I turned that hate into distance. And still, he never suspected a thing, because when a man stops seeing you, you can disappear in plain sight. That was the real betrayal. Not the man I kissed in a hotel room 3 months later. Not the lies I told about late meetings. The real betrayal was long before that. It was when I gave my heart away in quiet, careful pieces until there was nothing left at home, and he didn't even notice. I thought I was the one holding the secret. Turns out I was just holding borrowed time. He said nothing when I asked for the divorce. No protest, no tears, just a nod, like he already knew. That should have scared me, it didn't. I was too sure of myself. Too confident in the silence I'd curated. I told my lover, he won't fight. He's distant. He won't even care. I believed that. Because distance feels like indifference until it turns into strategy. We set the meeting. Clean break, assets, documents, everything cold and clinical. But when I walked into that office, he wasn't the man I remembered. He looked calm, not broken, not defeated, not even angry, just aware. He greeted my lawyer before greeting me. That should have been the first sign. But I was still playing the role the composed, self-assured woman who had moved on. Then he pulled out the folder. Black. Slim, unassuming, he didn't open it. Just slid it across the polished table like it weighed nothing. My lawyer hesitated, then opened it. First page, a printed screenshot. Second page, a time, stamped call log. His number, my number, the other number, then it kept coming and coming, pages flipping like dominoes, photos, messages, screenshots of hotel bookings in my name, a receipt from a dinner I never told him I had. My lawyer blinked, twice, hands trembling. He looked at me, then at him, then back at me like I was a ghost he hadn't seen until now. And still he said nothing, just leaned back in his chair, hands folded. Eyes steady. He didn't come to argue, he came to end the performance, because that's what it was. A performance. I had spent months convincing myself I was the victim, that I was lonely, neglected, justified. And in a way, I was. But when the truth showed up in black and white, undeniable and cold, I realized I wasn't just the hurt party. I was the liar, the actor, the one who smiled over breakfast after a night in someone else's arms. Then he spoke, not loudly, not emotionally, just clear. I knew before you asked for the divorce. I just wanted to see how long you'd keep lying. You weren't just cheating on me, you were erasing me every day. Quietly, and then you didn't fall out of love. You handed it to someone else like I never mattered. My chest caved in, not from guilt, from recognition, because I remembered saying something almost identical. To the man I had betrayed him with, if you were mine, I'd never stop choosing you. The same words, flipped, returned, like a mirror I didn't want to face. The room felt colder than any winter I'd known. Not because he yelled, but because he didn't have to. Truth doesn't need volume, it only needs space. My lawyer fumbled over his words, suggested a cooling off period, but it was too late for cooling. The ice had already cracked and all of us had fallen in. He stood up, pushed his chair in.